Today is November 11th. On this day in 1918, World War I officially ended and the armistice with Germany went into effect.
It was the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month of 1918.
To commemorate the end of World War I and honor veterans, many countries began observing Armistice Day.
But in 1954, the United States began observing what we now know as Veterans Day.
Veterans Day is a day to honor all those who have served in the United States Armed Forces.
Well, we have Memorial Day in May, which is when we celebrate and thank all the veterans who have passed away and the active duty people who have passed away. But Veterans Day is when we celebrate those of us that are still alive, on the right side of the grass, as they say. And it's very, very important. We have a lot of veterans that are still suffering from their memories, their ghosts, the things that haunt them. And many of us have PTSD that haunts us every day. So Veterans Day is a day to thank them generously, thank them for their time, thank you for what they gave of themselves when they were in the service.
These veterans are putting their life on the line every day in very dangerous locations, and then they're coming back broken. I do appreciate that a lot of Americans thank the veterans. You know, they're very appreciative. It's not like after Vietnam. They say thank you for your service and they're appreciative of what we do, but I don't think they really understand what we do. And so I wish there was a way for them to understand that better.
For some veterans, initially joining the military was a choice. For others, it was required of them to serve our country.
I really wasn't ready to go to college. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do yet, and I had two of my favorite uncles had been in the Army and had a really great experience, and one in particular, you know, he had lived in Germany and did some really fun stuff, and he was the one that sort of like guided me to choose the job. Like, he told me to get the job as counterintelligence agent and to go airborne and all of these things, so I just actually listened to him, and it worked out really well.
My great-great-grandfather was a man named General Terry, and he commanded the Terry's Texas Rangers during the Civil War. From there, my grandfather served from 1917 until 1953. So you can see it was kind of family-oriented that I would end up going into the military. So when I was in college, I went through ROTC, graduated in 1967, and immediately went into the Army as an infantry officer.
I wondered what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I was like 18. And I saw a sign that said, "Go Navy." And so I went.
We had been taught, our entire culture, our entire population had been taught there's one great evil in the world. One satanic evil, and it was communism. So if I joined the military, I could go fight communism, a cause greater than myself. Joining the military was a very honorable thing to do, and it was an honorable profession. And so those are the three reasons. One, I was tired of being a schoolboy. I wanted to do something grown up. Two, I got to go fight an evil force in the world. And three, it was a very honorable thing.
And the day that I was walking over to the Army ROTC detachment, I ran into one of my dorm mates, Carolyn Cameron, and she had on a uniform that I didn't recognize. And I said, "Yeah, what do you dress like?" And she said, "Oh, I'm an Air Force ROTC cadet." And I said, "Well, I'm thinking of joining Army ROTC." And she said, "Don't join the Army ROTC. It's a bunch of dweebs. Go into the Air Force ROTC." And so there, just because I didn't want to be an Army dweeb.
No matter how they entered the service, wartime experiences profoundly impacts veterans for the rest of their lives. It impacts their understanding of conflict and their perspectives on war.
After you've been in combat and seen some of the terrible things that can happen, that grown-ups can do to other grown-ups, you will never be able to wake up with the same spirit of life, the same esprit, that life is great. You have seen something that is so awful, and it's going on right now somewhere in the world, and that's a shame.
Anytime you take a life, you take a little bit of your own. And that does change you. any friend's death diminishes you. But you wind up with, why not me? Why am I not dead?
I think war is a pretty horrible place, and it should always be a very last minute thing, or a last resort thing, I should say. I think about who we send to war now and how young those people are. I thought I was such a man back then, and I look back and realize I was a kid. And that's pretty sad when I think about that. That's who we send.
Well, I'm very, very much against war, and I was when I went in. But I went in because part of my ethics when I went in was that there were young men that were being drafted, and they didn't necessarily believe in war or killing either, and they needed to be taken care of, and so that's why I was there. My opinion about war hasn't changed. I think it's a horrible thing, and we really need to work on diplomatic and negotiating in order to handle disputes.
Far before we commit troops to some place, we should have diplomacy, a robust diplomacy on the front end of that, because the costs are staggering, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of people's lives as well, both that service member's life, but also the people, all of the people in their lives, their parents, perhaps their spouse or their children. It's a big deal to commit forces, and I'd like people to think about that before they think of, some rogue country that we should go and send forces to. We should try diplomacy long before we commit the military, because the military doesn't want to go to war.
From experiencing the challenges of training, to surviving in extreme conditions, to witnessing the brutality of war, to bonding as a team, to taking pride in serving a greater cause than oneself, veterans learn lessons from their service that inform how they live and approach the rest of their lives.
One of the things that you learn in the service is teamwork, and it is so important, and that affects you in the military and in your civilian life. And there are 4 things that I always talked about: courage and commitment, discipline, and dependability.
Putting your best effort forward all the time is absolutely important, no matter what you do. I think the service reemphasizes that point, and I think with the leadership opportunities and the opportunities the service gave me, whether it was travel across the globe a couple times and seeing other cultures, probably gave me a little bit more of a insight just as a member of the human race. Just having the opportunity to witness other cultures, whether the Philippines or Australia or Middle East, anywhere that we are, I think it's good to see what the rest of the world is doing, and certainly the people in the United States are very fortunate, in my opinion, to live the life that we have, the freedoms that we have.
I think I really learned, not to judge a book by its cover. People come from all different aspects of life, and everybody has something to offer. And if you respect all those different backgrounds and that different diversity, as a leader, you can really embrace it and become better. And your unit can become so much stronger and better. You can tackle problems you never thought you'd be able to tackle, because everybody can come in with a different perspective to solve the issue. So I think that, my experience has really given me that opportunity to really embrace the diversity of America and our military.
It gave me more discipline. I like that kind of nudging to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And so it was important to me to kind of carry that through.
I think what we do when we're in those formative years and those skills we learn become who we are. And if you get grooved into the mindset of, well, I wake up and I chill out and I play on my iPad for a little while, versus I wake up, make sure everything's squared away, get a good exercise in, healthy breakfast, clean all this stuff, and plan my day, I think it's hugely impactful for how successful we are in life.
Each year, veterans from VFW Post 10721, based in Minturn, share their reflections on their military experiences with students of all ages. Typically, they visit schools in person, But this year, they share their stories with students virtually with their video profiles due to COVID-19. It is as important for students to hear veteran stories as it is for veterans to share them.
When we were at one of the middle schools, somebody asked a question, "Don't you feel ashamed that you killed those people?" And the answer is no. And no one else would answer it, so I would answer it. I said, well, look at it this way. They're there probably for the guy on the left or the guy on the right. So am I, just different guys. They're certainly trying to kill me. God knows they had enough chances. When I kill them, that's just the way that works. Some you win, some you lose, some just get rained out. And that was, I think, an acceptable answer. I'm not sure.
But we had been tamping it down since the war had happened in 69 and 70. We just put it aside. Well, now we talk about it.
I do want to share is my surprise at the emotion I could feel when I would relate stories through this Valley Veterans Awareness Program 50 years later, feeling like they had happened 5 days ago, where you get so choked up you couldn't speak. And that to me was a startling revelation, and probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gotten involved in the program. And what I want to say and acknowledge is that the program, while it is very good for the students to maybe get some of this history, is also very good for us veterans to have a chance to sort of get it out, if you will.
It is hard for civilians to fully understand what veterans have gone through, but Veterans Day is an opportunity to learn more about veterans, their experiences, and their perspectives.
I wish more people knew that veterans are not just people who are dedicated and loyal, but they're also people who are incredibly hardworking and also really ambitious and really innovative.
I think veterans generally have the this inherent nature of giving. Like they just want to give and help in some way.
When we came back as veterans from Vietnam, we were not treated well. We were really treated very badly. And I would hope that anybody in the future would always treat veterans returning from any war or conflict with respect. They went over because their country asked them to, maybe not because they felt they wanted to.
It's important to recognize the veterans because it's important to act. We think separately, but we act together.
Well, I think they've learned it. I think they've learned there's a difference between the war, which is political, and the warrior, which is the 19-year-old with the rifle with a knife on the end of it that you sent to go do something. What I would like people to remember is who is responsible. I got 28 dead guys. Who's responsible? I don't walk real well. Who's responsible? 144 went back to the world. Who's responsible? You are. Not me. You. The people that sent them to wherever they sent them. Now, a good cause or a bad cause, doesn't matter. The responsibility belongs to the society, and it needs to remember that. So if you don't like the war, hey, fine. Write your congressman. If you don't like the warrior, you got a problem, because you sent him there.
Every time we practice religion, every time we speak up and express our opinion, every time we read a newspaper free of censorship, every time we gather around a common cause, every time we petition for justice is possible because of the sacrifice and service of our veterans.
We think separately, but we act together. The school, it's acting together, voting, acting together. Recognize that the veteran has taken some time to become and fulfill that obligation, not just to you, but to your children.
You really need to be able to look at both sides of an issue and then make your own decision, because usually the truth lies somewhere between two differing opinions. So I think it's important that our future generations are able to think critically.
I came out of this, I don't hate anybody. There's some people I'd rather not associate with, but I don't hate anyone. I'm a very conservative Republican. I'm pretty well somewhere, to the right of Attila the Hun. But I don't hate anybody. I just disagree with them. If you can manage to keep the hate out of it, which we seem to be unable to do, then you can have reasonable civil discourse.
Veterans Day is the day to recognize and thank our veterans for protecting our country. But every day we live in peace. Every day we live the democratic principles that our nation was founded on is because of our veterans.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes